En el año 1993, Estados Unidos lanzó 47 misiles hacia Bagdad y resultó que solamente mataron a una sola persona. De esa historia de John Kiriakou, antiguo agente de la CIA, es de lo que vamos a estar hablando el día de hoy en el PAI. El PAI es el podcast para aprender inglés y el día de hoy es un nivel intermedio, es decir, en un inglés relativamente simple. Así que sin perder mucho más tiempo, vamos a por ello. Muy, muy bien. John Kiriakou is the person we are going to be talking about today. Es la persona de la cual vamos a estar hablando el día de hoy, que es esta persona que vemos aquí en pantalla, que bueno, que ya voy a salirme de aquí y voy a poner nuestro fondo de pantalla o un fondo de pantalla habitual de lo que nosotros regularmente tenemos. Genial. Muy bien. Comencemos con el bloque número 1 que se llama Who is John Kiriakou? Who is this person? Before we enter into the stories, we need to understand who this man is, this John Kiriakou, this ex-agent, this ex or former CIA agent. John Kiriakou is a former CIA counterterrorism officer. He joined the CIA in the 1990s and later worked on intelligence operations related to Iraq and terrorism after the 9/11 attacks. For many years, he was inside the system. He participated in daily intelligence briefings, he analyzed foreign operations, and he worked with classified information at the highest levels. But he later became famous for something very different. In 2007, he publicly confirmed that the CIA had used waterboarding during interrogations. Later, he was prosecuted for sharing classified information and went to prison. Today, he speaks openly in interviews and podcasts. He rejects on intelligence work. He reflects on intelligence work, morality, secrecy, and power. And what makes his interviews powerful is not just politics, is the stories he tells. Personal stories, stories about guilt, stories about training, stories about power. Today, we will explore 3 of those stories using his own words. So let's continue to this second block that is called, Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a spy? This is a question they asked him in yes. This is a question they asked him in an interview, in a podcast. So, in one interview, Kiriakou was asked a direct question. Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a spy? He answered clearly. I believe there's strong evidence he is a spy. Yes. Then he was asked, do you think he was working for the Israelis? He replied, I'm confident it was the Israelis. Now, this is an assessment, not a court decision, no, not official proof. But he explains his reasoning using intelligence training logic. Let's see, the idea of an access agent. What is an access agent? Kiriakou explains something very important from CIA training. He says, there is a type of recruit called an access agent. This is not a traditional spy. In a foreign intelligence service, if a foreign intelligence service wants close information from powerful people like former presidents, a billionaire CEO, or a member of the royal family, they will not try to recruit those individuals directly. He says, you're not going to recruit Bill Clinton or Bill Gates or Prince Andrew. So you do the next best thing. You recruit somebody who has regular access to them. That person creates relationships. That person makes powerful people feel comfortable. And according to Kiriakou, that person needs money, a lot of money. He describes it like this: you give them plenty of money. So he has his house on an island. Maybe you bring young girls. You get them in compromising positions just in case you need to use what's called compromat. Compromat means compromising material, photos or videos that can be used as blackmail. Kiriakou points out something else. We know now that Jeffrey Epstein's house had hidden video cameras in literally every room, including the bathrooms. Why? And then he answers his own question, saying, why would he care what was going on unless it was to use that information against people? He also makes a controversial statement. Only the Israelis and the Russians use extortion as a motivator. Again, this is his interpretation. He continues by discussing Epstein's unusual legal deal in 2006. This is a guy that's been convicted of child sex crimes. And he gets 6 months of house arrest with an ankle bracelet. We have a mandatory minimum in this country, which is said to be 5 years later in the interview. He suggests that such protection could indicate intelligence connections. And when asked if he had to bet everything on whether Epstein was a spy or not, he answered that he was a spy. I feel very confident in that assessment. This story shows how intelligence officers think. They look at patterns, they look at access, they look at protection, and they make probability assessments. Let's see. There's another story called the housekeeping training exercise, which I found fascinating. Let's see. This next story is not about politics, it's about training. Kiriakou describes a CIA training scenario in El Salvador. He says, we drew straws to see who would go first, and I went first. It's like a game where you cut straws, pajitas, pitillos, popotes, como lo quieras llamar, and there is one longer one. So the person that draws the longest one is the one that goes first. So let's see. The trainees were placed in what he describes as a flea bag hotel, like a very ugly hotel, a dirty, low quality motel. Just a table, a chair, and a bed. That's it. He says, it looks like a Hollywood set. I mean, this is real life. They make it look like it really is gonna look. Oh, they make it look like it really is going to look like in real life. He is alone in the room. He doesn't know what to expect. Then there is a knock on the door. He says, you say, who is it? And then the door opens and it's just two guys. One of them is holding a vacuum cleaner and they are saying, housekeeping, housekeeping. He responds normally, I don't need housekeeping. I don't need housekeeping. Then suddenly, the guy behind him, of these two people, pulls out a gun and goes bang, bang. They shot him with paint pellets, like small rubber bullets that are full of paint. He reacts in shock. I never saw that coming. After the exercise, an instructor tells him, if you're in a motel in a dangerous country and two people just walk into your room, kill them. He is told not to tell the others what happened. And all 8 trainees failed the exercise. Why? Because they acted like normal people. They were polite. They assumed normalcy. This story reveals something powerful. CIA training tries to change your instincts. It teaches suspicion instead of trust. It teaches reaction instead of politeness. And maybe the most important lesson is this: in intelligence work, normal behavior can get you killed. Okay, let's go to the last part of these stories. Third and last story of the day: the 47 missiles and the janitor, el conserje, y los 47 misiles. Okay. This is perhaps his most personal story. Kiriakou says his children once asked him, have you ever killed anybody? And he answers, no, thank God. He says he has never taken any action that directly resulted in someone's death. But then he says, there is one kind of half exception, and I think about this all the time. He describes a morning in 1993. He was in the daily 9 a.m. CIA meeting. Suddenly, the secretary entered and said, John, General Powell is on the phone for you. Colin Powell. Kiriakou was surprised. He answered the phone. Good morning, General Powell. This is John Kiriakou. And Powell asked him, if the Iraqis were going to kill the president, who would actually be in charge of that operation? They were discussing an alleged attempt to assassinate former President George H.W. Bush. Kiriakou explained who was responsible. Powell then asked, where does he sit? In Baghdad, he answers. Where exactly in Baghdad? And Kiriakou says, if you hold on a second, I'll look up the address. He gave him the exact address, and Powell said, thank you, and hung up the phone. 8 hours later, we fired 47 cruise missiles into Iraqi intelligence service headquarters. But there was one problem. Because of the time difference, it was the middle of the night in Baghdad. According to Kiriakou, we killed the janitor. El conserje fue la única persona que mataron porque no había nadie en medio de la noche. The next day, he told his boss, I killed that janitor. And his boss replied, you didn't kill the janitor. You had no idea what Powell was going to do with that information. Kiriakou says, I know, but I still feel guilty about it. He finishes by saying, other than that, thank God I never had to do it. I'm not sure how I would sleep at night. And that's it. Those are 3 of the many stories that John Kiriakou is telling in podcasts and interviews. And actually, he's been in interviews for like more than a decade now, but he's getting more and more famous lately in the early months of this year 2026. And that was it. Eso fue todo. El PAI, el podcast para aprender inglés de nivel intermedio, un vocabulario un poco más tranquilo, un poco más relajado para el día hoy, martes 3 de marzo. Y mañana estoy muy emocionado porque mañana voy a hablar de todos los libros que he logrado leer en febrero. Ya que acabó febrero, pues los libros que he leído en febrero. Eso sería todo por el día de hoy. Me he pasado de los minutos, lo debía haber cortado hace 5 segundos, pero no pasa nada. 15 minutos de sabor a Dios.